Hello folks and friends, and welcome to the factory. Today we'll tackle a much requested character, namely Vaggie from Hazbin Hotel. To create this lovely lady, I will use one of my favorite Monster High dolls, which is Ghoulia Yelps. Last Ghoulia I repainted was Princess Mars, so I was very happy to have one on my work table again. Oh, also, new background. I hope this one will help the quality of image a bit. So yeah, let's dive right in, shall we? First thing that I need to be done is prepping the doll. I went ahead and cut her hair as short as possible with my scissors. Then, off camera, I went and dunked in boiling water for a few minutes so I could easily yank her vinyl head off without damaging the plastic neck peg that is inside. Then I take a flat screwdriver and I scrape the stubbles of hair from the inside to remove them completely. And of course that makes my camera not knowing on what to focus, so yeah, my apologies for that. And once the hair is removed from the holes, I take tweezers to remove it through the neck hole, glue and all. The next step is face cleaning, and for that I use pure acetone. Actually, this thing is branded as heavy duty nail polish remover, but the label says 100% acetone. The one I usually have is labeled at 98%, but I find them both at my local dollar store, so if you don't know where to look for that product, well, that's your clue. And of course I was trying not to ruin my nail polish, but it happened because that's me and I'm clumsy, so new face, new nails. For Vaggie's hair, I'll be using acrylic yarn. This one is from Red Heart Super Saver. I cut strips of yarn the length I want her hair to be. Doing this, I took into consideration the fact that I will fold the strands in half when I will be rerouting, and I also kept in mind that I will lose both thickness and length when processing the fibers. I also drew a guideline on the scalp because I'll reposition her part line. To prepare hair for rerouting, I simply unravel the yarn strands and I will reroute them as is. I am using a reroute tool that is actually a large needle with the eye cut open in an angle. I grab the strand with it and I plug it in the existing holes on the vinyl head. And that's the full reroute done. Yarn is thicker than your usual doll hair, so you don't want to plug all the holes. Just remember to put enough around the perimeter and the part. Now to process it, you need to brush it. I use an old human hairbrush, but cat brushes are usually the best go-to. Brush sections from heads up until the hair becomes fluffy and frizzy and doesn't look like ramen noodles anymore. Then I use a hot flat iron and this hot mess transforms into soft, realistic strands of hair. Don't worry about losing a lot of it in the process. Go slowly and get used to brushing and ironing. You'll easily find your rhythm as you practice. I know I can keep my yarn reroutes fairly long, which is not something everyone easily do. I also think sometimes I could brush more, but that's how I roll. Also, I find that each brand of yarn has its personality, so I think the best is to get first-hand experience to really grasp the whole process. Here, I'm just using a glamorous sock to cover her hair. I'll be working on her face soon and I do not want the sealant to coat her locks. I'm trying to get into the habit of wearing gloves, but it's definitely hard since I don't usually like it. But yeah, like I usually do, I prep the doll head with 3 coats of Mr. Super Clear sealant, and I roughly sketch her features before starting the whole process. I am using dollar store brand makeup brushes and some soft pastels. The first 2, sometimes 3, layers of the face up are always dedicated to blushing and contouring. In the case of Vaggie here, well, hear me out, okay. She's actually not technically grey. The wiki says muted lavender. But I still swatched the color from an official art on my Photoshop and yeah, it's a muted lavender pink-ish color. But I liked the idea of a subtle color all over the grey, so I went in. Really in deep. A bit too deep actually, you'll see. She came out really colorful. I'm not mad at it at one bit, but I do apologize if some of you think it's a bit too far. Let's call it artistic interpretation, yes? Also, it's really hard to see at this stage because my sketches are usually pale and a little clumsy, but Vaggie, she only has one eye and wears an eye patch on the other. Her blind eye, if I may, will be drawn close, like if she was winking at us, celebrating her with her love. She has a very distinct eye style, especially with those lashes, and I really wanted that detail to shine. So yeah, I guess, look forward to this. I'll be soon switching to my watercolor pencils anyways. Though I guess I need to really pack on that blush on first. The sealant always dulls the pastel a little bit, so I like to layer on really thick. Like usual, when it comes to pencil work, you want to be precise. Pencils need to be sharp. I always start defining details with lighter colors, and I work my way to darker, more unforgiving pigments. I layer on colors, spraying a new layer of sealant in each time my colors stop building or when I want to save my progress. My clumsy person is trying to not be scared of new angles, but apparently that time it meant keeping my hand between the camera and the doll, so please, excuse my clumsiness. It won't last the whole face up though, I promise you. So Vaggie, about Vaggie. Vaggie is a sinner, and one of the main cast of the Hazbin Hotel series. She's an interesting character, and she is very close to Charlie, and doing her best to help her with her dreams. She is one that died in modern times, and I think the wiki lists it at 2014, and she is Salvadorian, much like Vivziepop, her creator. I love her, and I think I relate to her the most. She is unapologetically calling out what's wrong and trying to be the voice of reason, even if it means ruining the fun. She can be very serious, and she more than anything cares for Charlie. I remember having a lot of comments about who you folks ship together in this series. While I understand the appeal of having Alastor romancing Charlie, which is not too far-fetched actually, since it kinda is in a seductive mode there, even if that's not romantic, I'm going to stand my ground here and officially tell you that I stand Charlie with Vaggie. I'm all for sapphic representation, as I am one myself, and I feel that a lot of the queer couples we see in most mainstream medias are guy couples, so, well, this is refreshing, and much needed, especially with such a diverse cast of characters. Also, I guess being sapphic makes me biased, but what can I say? The love of my life is a gorgeous woman, and I can't see myself without her today. Yes, I am cheesy. Eat it. Alright, so yeah, that face is taking shape, and the white pencil comes off nicely pigmented this time. It's actually super satisfying. Also, Vaggie's eye is peculiar, if I may, much like the other characters of the series. Her sclera is pink, and her iris is white. You know things are getting serious when I get out the black pencil. I always try to use it as sparingly as possible. After I'm over and done with the watercolor pencils, I get my paints out. I use my watercolor paints with very little water. I think gouache would be more appropriate actually, as they are both water activated, but the latter is more opaque. But, well, I don't have any, so I use what I have, and for me it works pretty well. I am using it to bring out texture and details usually. It's a bit hard to blend, but it can be done if careful. Too much water though would create pools of paint, and you really don't want that though. On the flip side, any error you make can be removed with a clean damp brush. Of course, I finished her up with shimmers and I used a mix of silver and lavender mica powders. Okay, so now let me show you a little trick you might or might not know. When you have a little bit of sealant caked on the hairline, on the actual fibers, you can easily remove it carefully with a sharp artist knife. It works on synthetic hair too, like saran and nylon. Just be careful not to damage the hair too much. You could even use your nails on some textures, but with yarn though, I prefer to use my blade. Now to style Vaggie's hair. I first went on and flat ironed it again, as it creased while I did the face up. I removed the extra length she had on one side to even out her hair. I saved those fibers though, just in case. I usually prefer using an eyebrow razor to cut yarn hair, but Vaggie's cut is pretty blunt. And as a matter of fact, I had a spot there that was missing some yarn that I must have pulled out while brushing. I don't always put glue in the heads to seal in the reroute in early, so yeah, that helped. I cut her bangs and styled it off camera using heat, hair gel, and a wooden dowel to help me with the shape. To add Vaggie's pink tips on the hair, I used a little bit of soft pastels, mixing pink and grey, and I used a bit of hairspray then to seal it in. I used my trusty sock to shield the face from the product. Alright, now the hard part. Clothing. I traced this very crude pattern for her dress using the measurements of my Monster High top pattern. My thought process was to make the dress by cutting two of these and sewing them together. Like usual, I source my fabrics at my local thrift store, so this is a shirt. It is not the best fabric for this kind of project though, but I appreciated that it was stretchy because I knew it would hug her curves really well, though it was a bit too delicate for the straps. After sewing and hemming all the raw edges, this is what I have. For the gray details, I have this other stretchy fabric, this time one that holds well, and I simply used its matte side instead of its shiny, shimmery one. To make her belt, I simply hemmed a rectangle of fabric and sew a snap on it. Sadly, I did not have any matching thread on hand at this moment, so I did with white, doing my best to try to make my stitches as clean and consistent as I can. I carefully cut out some tiny strips of grey to make the X shapes she has on the chest. After I was done, I added a trim of grey lace at the bottom of the dress, something I should have added to the main pieces before sewing them together, of course. This is a bit awkward to sew it now, but I think I did a nice job with it. Vaggie doesn't seem to have shoes, but she has stockings. To make her thigh-high socks, I fetch in some of the fabric I sourced for Angel Dust's vest. To make it more grey, I simply diluted a bit of acrylic paint in a lot of water and covered the fabric with it. It's not thick enough to stiffen the fabric too much. Before moving into suiting shot, I remembered to add the lace trim first this time. Then, to get the perfect fit, I pinned the fabric around the leg, good side facing inwards so I could sew it as close to the leg as possible. I still left a bit of space though because this fabric does not have much stretch compared to the other ones I used. Once done, I removed it and trimmed the excess. I then grabbed some tongs and used that to turn it inside out. I'll be using the same grey fabric and lace to do our other sock, of course. Socks done, we can now do gloves. She wears two, but one is actually more of an arm warmer as it's tough at the wrists. To sell the glove illusion, I color match one of her hand to fit with the fabric. Sewing it at this scale honestly don't seem possible to me, or at least extremely hard. To make her eye patch, and yes, a removable one, I glued a piece of faux leather to some thin ribbon. I finished it off with a small paint job using acrylics. To fix the eye patch on her head, I will use tiny needles that can be easily hidden in her hair. Alright, her big pink bow now. Well, I don't have a ribbon of suitable size, so I decided to sew a long, straight tube of pink fabric. Since it's a shirt that I used, I was able to use the edges as a guide to make sure it was straight. And yes, ironing your seams and edges can make a huge difference. Just be careful, it's really hot. I did not tie the ribbon. Instead, I folded it carefully and sewed it in place, and then I added a strip in the middle to mimic the shape. It's much cleaner looking that way. I also hid a pin behind it to when I'll put it on Vaggie. Okay now, the last thing I need to do is blush her body. Her thighs are also really yellow too, probably from some clothes she had to wear for a long time. I'm hoping some sanding will get rid of it. And it did, but not completely, but enough. I gave her a nice sanding on all the hard plastic surfaces on her body. The legs from the knee downs were a softer plastic like the forearm, so I left them alone. I used rubbing alcohol to clean her well, and the night was used to help smooth mold the long plastic seam lines she had. I blushed her body pretty much the same way I did for her face. It's not my best job, and it's a bit too purple, but it's coherent and shiny, so I'm happy with it. And now I can finally put her back together and we'll be able to see the end result. Though, before we go into that, folks, I want to thank you once again for the outstanding support I get from my Hazbin Hotel dolls. I read every single comment, and I try to answer to most of them when I can. This is what dreams are made of, so yes, thank you so much. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. My next Hazbin Hotel doll though, it's probably going to be Cherry Bomb, so look out for this one, folks. Though she's likely gonna come after my Halloween doll, which is going to be a big project, so yeah. Also, I have only one more Sailor Moon doll to do, and once she's completed, I might put a lot of these dolls on sale. I might also put other dolls on sale too, you know, maybe like this one here. So yeah, I'd suggest you follow me on Instagram to stay up to date. Those thigh-high socks gave me trouble here, but ultimately, she's all well and done. Let's look at the end result together now, shall we? Vaggie? The radio demon is at the door. What?
Woo?
I know your game.
If I wanted to hurt anyone here, I would have done so already.
So, what did you think of my Vaggie? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know everything you have to say. I'm so very grateful for all of this, folks. I mean it. So take care now, okay? See you in the next one.